member. I'll cast my first vote in a presidential election ever. The fact is, our right to vote is under attack. I've seen it. Long wait lines. People blocked from registering to vote. Texans denied our voice. Donald Trump's Republicans are making it harder for us to vote, but we won't let them get away with it. And Kamala Harris won't let them get away with it either. She's fought for our freedoms. She's fought for our voice, but we will only be heard if we vote. As the saying goes, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
1 year later.
To everyone out there who's watching this, who you may still not believe me, you may not find me trustworthy, you may think that I'm a paid Democratic shill, that's fine. It's within your right to believe that. I am part of Chorus. I accepted money to be part of a technical and operational training program and a mentorship program. I have absolutely no shame about being part of Chorus. I am someone who has been on my own, working and busting my ass since I was 19 years old to be able to build a better life for my children and give them the safety and security I never had. And next year, when I go back to college and I'm able to finish and become the first person in my family to graduate from college, I will have absolutely no guilt in accepting money to make myself more independent in the future. It is the same as somebody giving seed money to a small business to build their infrastructure so that that business can go on to be self-sustaining in the future.
Boy. So we got to talk about some more woke on woke conflict featuring Olivia Julianna and Taylor Lorenz. Now, Taylor Lorenz is a so-called independent, progressive, far-left journalist who exposed a bunch of Democrats who aren't far-left enough, right? Who shield on behalf of the Democrat establishment, and again, aren't far-left enough. Influencers like Olivia Julianna, okay, who apparently was the male outreach coordinator for the DNC, right? This is who the DNC was sending to try to get young men to vote for Democrats. And who knows, maybe she will be a part of Gavin Newsom's team as well too, because apparently she's going to be on the ground trying to help Gavin Newsom.
I'll tell you this, I might be a Texas Democrat, but I'll have boots down on the ground in California to help get this ballot initiative passed, because what they're doing here is so unconscionable. And I am so grateful that a Democratic governor in a different state gives enough of a shit about the people who are living here in my home that you're doing something about it. So I appreciate that very, very much.
Well, I appreciate you and thank you for that.
I'm fired up. I'm ready to knock doors. I'm ready to collect signatures, whatever we need to do. I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, see, now you heard that. Okay, Olivia Julianna says that she's ready to do whatever for Gavin Newsom, right, in order to help him out. Now, again, Taylor Lorenz has exposed influencers like this, basically saying that, hey, she's not an independent progressive or whatever, right? She's not an independent person. She's a paid shield for the Democrat Party, right? And this is why you're seeing her palling around with all these Democrat politicians while never having any substantive criticisms of the Democrat Party. And these people can't be trusted, right? Like, they're not a part of the actual left, right? And I think that is the argument being made by people like Taylor Lorenz and others who are upset with these individuals getting exposed, taking money from, again, a liberal dark money group connected to the Democrat operation, right? That is, I think, probably an accurate way to describe the article that came out in The Wire, exposing these individuals for taking these payments. And I want to go ahead and play a few clips of Taylor Lorenz explaining this scandal, because Olivia Julianna is actually lashing out. She's responding to the backlash that she's receiving from her audience over being exposed in this article. So again, I want to go ahead and play a clip from Taylor Lorenz explaining why Democrats are doing this. Long story short, it's because they're desperate.
Rather than confront the wildly unpopular policies that the Democratic establishment continues to cling to, liberals convinced themselves that they only had a messaging problem. They began crowing online about how Democrats simply needed a left Joe Rogan. Quote, liberals need to build their own Joe Rogan. Somebody who can speak to the people that he speaks to, the nation's Elie Mystal posted on X. The lesson that many Democrats seem to have taken from their stunning loss in November was just more podcasts. A slew of DC political consultants, many with zero experience in the influencer industry, recognized an opportunity. Soon, organizations began sprouting up and soliciting millions of dollars from donors. The billionaire and millionaire donors that Democrats are so reliant on were seeing headlines about the party's failed influencer strategy, and they wanted to put money towards changing that. Traditional news outlets convinced a lot of rich people that if Kamala Harris had simply paid the right Twitch streamers or done a podcast or two more, she would have won. So it's into this climate that these nonprofits and consultancies start to emerge. One of the most high-profile ones is a nonprofit called Chorus. Chorus launched with a splashy profile in the New York Times written by journalists Shane Goldmacher and Ken Bensinger. Chorus billed itself as a nonprofit advocacy organization and creator-led hub dedicated to helping independent media figures expand their reach and push democratic policy. Chorus also positioned itself as a quasi-newsroom, akin to what conservative groups have built on the right, but for liberal creators. According to a pitch deck that I obtained, Chorus claimed that it wanted to change how progressive content creators operate by providing ongoing stability, resources, and support that legacy journalists and conservative commentators count on. You should be transparent about who's paying you. For instance, say you're watching one of my videos and I'm suddenly talking a lot about the Democrats, how they're the future and how they're amazing and how we all need to vote for them and support their failed policy agenda, blah, 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 blah. Then it turns out that I'm actually getting paid tens of thousands of dollars from the largest and most powerful Democrat dark money group. It seems to me that that's the type of information your followers or audience have the right to know. And I'm sure creators will say, oh, but Chorus never told us explicitly what to say. And sure, maybe they didn't write out exact lines for you, but the creators who join this program are expected to attend regular advocacy trainings and daily messaging check-ins, according to a Chorus representative's comments on a Zoom call that I obtained. Those messaging check-ins are led by Brian Tyler Cohen on rapid response days, and the creators also have to attend at least 2 Chorus newsroom events per month, which are events Chorus plans often with lawmakers. And again, I just have to say it again, because even if Chorus never explicitly told any of these creators to take down specific content or that they weren't allowed to say certain things, I still think the fact that the contract itself doesn't allow for transparency shows that this is not an ethical agreement.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you guys the argument that Taylor Lorenz is making in simple terms, plain terms, so that people kind of understand how we got to this point. Basically, what Taylor Lorenz was arguing is that Democrats, after the election, were really upset about losing to Trump, and they were trying to figure out how they lose to Trump, right? They were probably crying themselves to sleep, asking themselves, how did we lose to Hitler? Right? That's probably what they were saying, right? And instead of doing some real self-reflection and evaluation and realizing that, hey, you know, we lost to Trump because our policies suck. Now, here's the thing. Taylor Lorenz is arguing that Democrat policies suck because they're not far left enough. I think she's wrong about that. I think she's very wrong about that. I think that the reality is that Democrat policies suck because they're too far left, okay? Democrats need to be more centrist. That is where I disagree with Taylor Lorenz. Now, keep in mind, I have no dog in this fight, right? I am just commentating, right? As a third-party observer, I'm just telling you what I think about this woke-on-woke conflict, okay? So, again, instead of realizing that, hey, it's because we have bad policy, no, they decided that it's because their propaganda network wasn't robust enough. Because, again, having all of the mainstream liberal media shield on your behalf, right, spin things in your favor, again, not enough, okay? Democrats was like, no, we need to rig the system even more, right? So again, we got to make sure that all of alternative media is overwhelmingly progressive and left. So we got to build our own Joe Rogan, okay? Which that statement in and of itself shows you how the left fundamentally misunderstands Joe Rogan. They don't understand politics. They don't understand how any of this stuff works. They're very, very inorganic. They're very inauthentic. And again, I think that's also a problem with the Democrats on top of the policy, right? But you get the gist of what's going on here. Democrats convince their donors that they need to donate money to these causes that would help create this ecosystem of propaganda for Democrats, right? And that is why you have these groups like the group that we're talking about in this video, right? That funded these Democrat Party influencers, founded by Tyler Cohen, who everybody knows is in fact a Democrat Party propagandist. I mean, I think everybody knows that for a fact, okay, that this guy is working on behalf of the Democrat Party. So yeah, you have all of this money, this Democrat donor money poured into these groups, right? These organizations that then take that money and they give the money to some of these quote unquote independent creators to shill on behalf of Democrats. And then these creators pretend as if they're not actually shilling on behalf of Democrats and that they're completely independent, right? Outside of donations or influence of the Democrat Party, except in order to be a part of this whole operation, you got to make sure that you don't disclose it, at least according to Taylor Lorenz. And on top of that, you got to toe the line, right? Because if you don't toe the line, I'm not entirely sure how you get that interview with Gavin Newsom or Jamie Raskins, right? Or all of these Democrats who you don't really see them showing up on conservative podcasts, right? You don't really see them showing up in conservative alternative media, right? You don't even see them showing up on Fox News. So I'm just saying, right? If you weren't shilling on behalf of the Democrats, right? If you weren't pushing the party line, I'm not entirely sure how you're getting access to these Democrats, okay? So anyways, that leads me to Olivia Julianna's response, right? She is responding to Taylor Lorenz and these accusations, and I want to react to it because all of the drama, in my opinion, is hilarious. I love watching the Democrat Party fall apart, okay? This is the far left versus the Democrat establishment shields, okay?
Because it's just sort of frustrating. Everyone is willing to just believe lies.
The article that Taylor Lorenz wrote about me and a number of other content creators who are part of the Chorus cohort is filled with factual inaccuracies. First and foremost, we are not paid to make content. We are not paid by the Democratic Party. Chorus does not have any creative control over any of the content that I make, over any of the people that I talk to, and they have never and will never tell me what I can or cannot say. The contract that we sign does not pay us for content. It is the same as somebody giving seed money to a small business to build their infrastructure so that that business can go on to be self-sustaining in the future.
Yeah, so what are they paying you for then? Right? You're saying they're not paying you for content, but you're a content creator, and you wouldn't have got paid unless you were a content creator, and you also would have got paid unless you were shilling for Democrats. But again, I'm trying to figure out why she's saying they're not paying her for content, when clearly, if she wasn't making content, she wouldn't be getting paid, right? The whole thing is about content creation. So clearly you're being paid to create content, because again, if you weren't creating content, then you wouldn't be getting paid. So again, I'm trying to figure out exactly how she's logically thinking through this, right? And what she's trying to say. But to me, it's not really making any sense.
That is effectively what Chorus is. It offers small creators and content creators technical trainings and operational guidance on how to build their own long-term self-sustainable platforms. If you want
to make content, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, to make content, that is the whole point, right? To build your platform to make content. So ultimately, they're paying you to make content. They may not be paying you for every video, but they're giving you this seed money and saying, hey, we're going to give you seed money so that you can build up your production to make content, right? I mean, like, I'm trying to figure out why she's saying that they're not paying her for content when that's clearly what they're paying her for.
Get into the weeds about all of those things, you can go watch the videos that were posted by Elizabeth Booker Houston and Allie O'Brien. By the way, two people who are part of this cohort who have been consistently critical of the Democratic Party since all of this started, which debunks the other claim you have, which is that we have to be nice and uncritical.
Critical of Democrats in what way? Oh, because they say that, Democrats don't fight hard enough against Trump, right? That's the type of criticism that she counts as criticism of Democrat Party. Or that, Democrats aren't far left enough. They're not far left enough. Andrew Cuomo work with Trump.
Andrew Cuomo is getting majorly embarrassed on Twitter right now. What else is new? By this dumb kid who publicly announced that he's working with Cuomo and his team on marketing strategy and cited a specific popular meme he made for them. So people took a look at that kid's Twitter and it genuinely is worse than I could have imagined. First we have, I call ICE on my employees who aren't working hard enough so I don't have to pay them. Strong start. Next he tweeted which union you're going after, listed a bunch, said it's union busting time, baby. Then he said, good evening at Brian Johnson. How many carrots do I have to eat for my eyesight to be good enough to see through women's clothing? Yeah, I can imagine why this guy is a great fit for the Cuomo campaign. He also has announced on Twitter that he is indeed a Trump voter. This also makes sense because, as we know, Cuomo has been working personally with Trump to try to beat Mamdani in this election. The kid also tweeted, if Kamala wins, I predict Schmex work is legalized by 2026. Therefore, I'll be raising VC money to build DoorDash for Schmex workers. Are you prepared? What's your backup plan? Oh my God. How does he come up with these really funny jokes? Gina went through his Venmo receipts and found that his rent and groceries were being paid for by his mom until he was 24 or 25. And now the Cuomo team is trying to distance themselves from this kid. But honestly, they shouldn't. He stands for genuinely everything that Cuomo stands for. We would love to see a Democrat that stands on their principles, right? Anyways, it's gonna be really funny watching Cuomo lose this election, and Zoran events are starting back up again. You can sign up for a canvas at the link in my bio.
Yeah, I don't think at this point that a valid criticism of the Democrat Party is that they're too far left, right? I don't think that's a valid criticism, okay? Wake me up when this fund is funneling money to a so-called influencer who's saying that the Democrats are too far left, right? You're too woke. You're too in bed with radical far-left lunatics, right? You're too socialist. You're too progressive. Wake me up when Brian Tyler Cohen is funneling money to somebody criticizing Democrats from the right, okay? Not from the left, but from the right, okay? That's when you'll actually make a valid point and say, well, we're not actually really paid to shield on behalf of the Democrat Party because we actually criticize Democrat in substantive ways. Saying that Democrats aren't far left enough is not substantive criticism because they're far left. They are a far left party. They're just not as far left as the far leftists who are, again, in socialist communist territory, right? They're in socialist communist territory. Democrats are at their doorstep, right? That's where Democrats are at right now, okay? They're at their doorstep. So I'm just saying, when Brian Tyler Cohen, okay, is funneling money to right-wing influencers or influencers who are doing real criticism of the Democrat Party, right, from the right, then I think that Olivia Julianna will have a valid point about this.
Of the Democratic Party. It might be easy to convince people on the outside and to convince other creators that the things that you're saying about 1630 and about Omidyar and about journalism are all true. Unlike a lot of other creators and people on the outside, I have experience in the nonprofit world, the nonprofit compliance world, and in journalism, which is why I am absolutely dumbfounded that your article was even published in the first place. When you submit a piece of content or a piece of writing to someone in an editorial manner, they go through a rigorous fact-checking process. So the fact that your article, which was riddled with factual inaccuracies, was published in the first place is mind-boggling to me. And you're also trying to convince people that the problem here is accepting dark money and that there is a lack of disclosure. Well, Taylor, once again, you're either a liar, a hypocrite, misinformed, bad at your job, or maybe a combination of all of those. You yourself have received funding from Omidyar through their Reporters in Residence program.
But I am in a reporting fellowship that is an LLC that is completely separate from even the organization, the nonprofit organization of the Omidyar Network.
1630 Fund is a fiscal sponsor. It is a larger charity that houses smaller charities for the sake of logistics and operations.
The LLC that I'm part of has not accepted any money from the 1630 Fund.
You, Taylor, receive money for independent journalism infrastructure building from the Omidyar Network. Whether you're accepting it from the nonprofit or from an LLC, you are still accepting money from the same funding pool.
Yeah. So they're exposing each other, right? They're exposing each other, right? This is a great screenshot, right? This was definitely going to the thumbnail. I love when I accidentally get great screenshots because I think this is perfect. This is amazing. So what you have here are Democrat influencers, leftist influencers, exposing each other for taking money basically from the same place, right? It all comes from the same place, okay? You have these big Democrat donors who are like, hey, I want to funnel money to leftist content creation, right? So independent journalism, aka leftist journalism, right? Which apparently that's where Taylor Lorenz is taking money from, right? But again, it's coming ultimately from the same source that the the YouTube, TikTok content creation money is coming from, right? It's all coming from the same place. So all of these individuals are taking this dark liberal money, right? They're all taking it. They're all paid shields, okay, on behalf of liberal leftist donors and the Democrats. Because ultimately, all these people end up voting Democrat, right? All of them end up voting Democrat in the day, for the most part. For the most part, and there's some leftists who will, abstain, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm not going to vote for, the Democrats because they're not far left enough." But for the most part, these people still supporting Democrats. They just want the Democrats to be more far left, right? Fascinating. They're exposing themselves.
Not political, it's nonpartisan, and I'm being paid as part of a reporting fellowship. It has nothing to do with politics.
Yeah, Taylor, so are we. Because Chorus is a non-partisan, non-profit. It is not an entity of the Democratic Party. You are in the same structured program.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, though. Apparently, this program is in coordination with the Democrats, right? It helps you coordinate with Democrat politicians to do interviews, to create content, again, presumably that is favorable to Democrats, right? So again, both are probably being dishonest, right, about the funding that they're getting, okay, and where the funding's coming from. I just find it hilarious as a third-party observer how they are exposing each other, right? Everybody's exposing, they're all now pointing the fingers and saying, no, you're the actual paid shield, right? Not me. You are. No, you are, right? That's what's happening right now.
Truly, no one's paying. I'm not taking money from any dark money group. I'm just not. And if I ever did, I would tell you.
You go to your Substack, there's no disclosure that you have had any kind of operational or seed funding for your independent journalism pursuits. Which is how I know that you know the difference between being paid for content and being paid to grow your own independent infrastructure.
Yeah, but ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, you're still being paid for content. The way that you grow your independent ecosystem is by creating content. She's playing word games, right? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are being paid for content. Let's be real. You're not being paid to advertise a product. It's not like a normal sponsorship where you're being paid to advertise a product. In this case, your product is your content, right? And your content essentially is an advertisement for the Democrat Party. So I'm just saying, right? Like, again, you can play the semantics, the word games all you want. The reality is that you were getting paid. And you didn't disclose it, right? You didn't click the little button on YouTube where you say, hey, I was paid for this, right? She didn't click that button. And leftists are upset about this. They're mad, okay? And I just like the fact that they are arguing each other. Like, they're going back and forth, exposing each other for taking payments, right? Taking payments in exchange for content, right? Again, in Taylor Lorenz's case, she's doing quote-unquote independent journalism. But let's be real. She's a leftist, right? She's a leftist. So she's getting money from some of the same people that are donating to the Democrat Party in general, because again, the Democrats at this point, they're damn near a leftist party. So all of them in the same boat, okay? I mean, there are differences, but they're all in the same boat, okay? But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.